Recording in progress.
I'd like to call today's Common Council meeting, July 15th, to order. It is 7:03 p.m.
Davis. Here. Lampy.
Here.
Berg.
Here.
Bartz.
Here.
Blanky.
Here.
Smith. Arnett.
Here.
Wetzel.
Here.
Moldenhauer.
Okay, please join for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Pastor Katie Van der Linden, you want to come on up, please? Thank you.
It's off, because I read light. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Pastor Katie Vander Linden, the pastor at Ebenezer Moravian Church here in Watertown, and I would like to invite us all now to join our thoughts, to quiet our heads, and to take a deep breath. We come before you this evening to make decisions, to make plans, to plan a future. A future for people in this room, a future for people beyond our borders, a future for people we know and for those whom we don't know. May we be mindful of those who are not at the table. May we remember those who don't have a voice or don't feel they have a voice here in our own community. May we think of those constituents not only who support us, but also those who did not vote for us. For we still serve the entire city of Watertown. Help us to make good decisions. Help us to bear in mind our friends and neighbors. Help us to seek peace and the right answers, whatever they may look like. Help us to have open ears and open eyes, and most of all, open hearts, as we listen to one another, as we understand where each other is coming from, and as we are remembering that we all have a past and a history and a shape for the future. Thank you for those gathered here, for their wisdom, for their thoughtfulness, for their willingness, for their service, for their time, for their talent, and most of all, for their love for Watertown and for whomever or whatever they believe in. We are thankful for those gathered here, for those online, and for those in our community as we look toward being siblings together and serving one another. Amen.
Thank you, Katie. Next item, minutes of council meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Blanky.
I'd like to make a motion to amend our agenda for this evening to move item 8A to next item on the agenda.
Okay. We have a motion to move 8A to the top of the agenda. Second by Bartz. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Do the minutes first. Let's do the minutes of council meeting held. We'll finish that off first. July 1st, 2025.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move for adoption of the minutes as written.
Okay, got a motion by Berg, second by Wetzel. Thank you. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. With the amendment, we'll move to communications recommendations, section A, employee recognitions. We'll have Andrea Drager come up first, and family.
Go ahead, go there.
Up on the stage.
Andrea Drager has been a dedicated and compassionate coworker within the City of Watertown Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department for the past 5 years, serving as the Senior Center Director, Enrichment Services, and Office Manager. Throughout her tenure, Andrea has consistently demonstrated a deep commitment to streamlining administrative tasks and enriching the lives of Watertown's older adults through her thoughtful programming and collaboration with community partners. Her support of the community has transformed the Senior Center into a vibrant place where activity and connection are welcomed. Andrea has helped to grow participation, enhance services, and meaningful partnerships, leaving a positive impact on the department and the residents served. Her 5 years of service reflects a vision of growth and incredibly bright future for the Senior Center.
Sherry Rohr.
Great appreciation from the city that we commend Sherry for her service and commitment to the finance department over the last 5 years. Sherry's professionalism, accuracy, and outstanding work ethic have made her an invaluable part of our team within the finance department. When I started my position, I learned right away that there's so much about the role of the city clerk that I had no knowledge of and really no interest in. And Megan would say the same about finances as well. Sherry, in contrast, though, as our deputy treasurer slash clerk, has constantly demonstrated mastery across a broad spectrum of financial and clerk functions. She has acted on behalf of both finance director and the city clerk when needed, including as interim for a short period of time, ensuring seamless continuity of service. Her experience spans tax settlements, audit prep, election administration, licensing, payroll workstations, each performed with exceptional precision and a solution-oriented demeanor. She's ready to support coworkers throughout backup coverage and accounts payable, payroll, front desk duties. She's always willing to assist other departments with problem-solving investigations. In every task, from responding to residents' concerns to preparing financial statements, Sherry embodies the principles of service, reliability, and versatility. Thank you, Sherry, for your continued dedication. Your contributions do not go unnoticed, and your work is a cornerstone of our collective success.
Okay, next we'll take comments and suggestions from citizens present. We do have a public hearing after, so if you're here to speak on a public hearing, you can wait until that time. But anybody here for other than a public hearing want to speak at this time, you can do that.
Reverend Dr. Christopher Ross.
Good evening. My name is the Reverend Dr. Christopher Ross. I live at 432 West Clover Lane in Cottage Grove, but I serve here in Watertown as pastor of First Congregational United Church of Christ. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am part of the local group known as Building a Welcoming Watertown, first begun by 4 Watertown area congregations. We continue to speak to the need for a community overnight warming shelter, so that we have a chance to reduce the number of those at risk of freezing to death during the upcoming winter. We still believe that if anyone in our community finds themselves in danger of freezing to death, that's on all of us. A proposal for a community overnight warming shelter based on a public-private partnership has been submitted, and we are grateful for the input and conversations we've been having with various city officials. Because of our roots as a faith-based group, and because so many of you share a claim to the same source of Scripture, that so many of us do. We would like to continue to remind you of that shared scriptural wisdom. Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 22 tells us, "You shall allot it as an inheritance for yourselves and for the aliens who reside among you, and have begotten children among you. They shall be to you as citizens of Israel. With you they shall be allotted an inheritance among the tribes of Israel." Amos chapter 5, verses 21 through 24. "I hate, I despise your festivals, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. And the offerings of your fatted animals I will not look upon. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Zechariah chapter 7, verses 9 through 10 tells us, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, render true judgments, show kindness and mercy to one another. Do not oppress the widow, the orphan, the alien, or the poor, and do not devise evil in your hearts against one another." Malachi chapter 3, verse 5 says, "Then I will draw near to you for judgment. I will be swift to bear witness against those who swear falsely, against those who oppress the hired workers in their wages, the widow and the orphan, against those who thrust aside the alien and do not fear me, says the Lord of hosts." Matthew chapter 5, verse 42 says, "Give to everyone who begs from you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you." Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 through 44 says, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you." Matthew chapter 6, verse 24 says, "No one can serve two masters, for a slave will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth." Matthew chapter 11, verse 5 says that the blind will receive their sight, the lame will walk, the lepers will be cleansed, the deaf will hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have good news brought to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Anybody else? No. Okay. Next, I guess we have two public hearings. I'll now open the public hearing for the rezone of parcel number 291-0815-0832-005 from planned office and institutional zoning district to planned industrial zoning district. If you'd like to come up and speak, you may do that at this time. Okay, I will then close that public hearing at 7:16 p.m. I'll then open the public hearing to rezone of 213 South First Street from multifamily residential, MR8 zoning district to central business zoning district. If anyone wants to speak on that hearing, come on up at this time. If you just state your name and address.
Thank you, Mayor Stocks. Attorney Christopher Kopis appears on behalf of the applicant, Dillon Ursel LLC. We appear in support of the application and simply wanted to demonstrate the strength of our conviction by coming to the council meeting tonight and see if there's any objection. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in that public hearing? Okay. Seeing none, I will then close at 7:17 p.m. We'll move on to agenda number 7, reports. We have licensing board minutes from June 11th, tourism minutes from June 12th, Parks, Recreation, Forestry minutes from June 16th, Senior Center Advisory Board minutes from June 17th, RDA minutes from June 18th, Public Works minutes from June 24th, licensing board minutes from July 1st, and Public Safety and Welfare minutes from July 2nd. If it's okay for me to go out of turn, I forgot to say something during the council minutes. I just want to state at the last meeting, we were asked to open up the Riverfest bathrooms. So make everybody aware on the minutes from that meeting that city staff's going to do the best they can for that. I also want everybody to know that I'm letting the police department make the judge on when they close at night. Okay. Any other comments from the other minutes at all?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Arnett.
Just a question for clarification on the Tourism Commission meeting minutes.
Okay. From June 12th?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding something correctly here. Under Section 5, New Business, subsection D, review and take possible action on tournament fee mitigation.
Section
As-
D, you said, sir, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I read this, I just, again, want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. It seems to read as the Tourism Commission of the city is going to give money to the Parks and Rec Department of the city in order to lessen essentially the fees being paid by some tournaments. And just want to verify that I'm reading that correctly. This is taking money out of the left pocket and putting it right back into the left pocket. Have I got that right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds like it. Yep.
Mayor?
Mr.
So-
Yes, Mr. Lampy.
So I'm not on tourism, but I do serve on Park and Rec, which is a bit of the recipient. And I was obviously a giant advocate of the tax increase that we placed on hotel stays to move that up to the 8% to increase funds into the tourism piece. So based on that discussion from last year, I was definitely, that was part of the plan, was essentially to make sure that we increased the granting funding of tourism when we attempted to do that. The fee structure that is in place at Park and Rec is essentially, it's a restructured fee structure that applies both to, I guess, for-profit as well as nonprofit organizations. So that's one of the major fee changes that was made in Park and Rec, is that we essentially established a baseline for all use. And the intent behind the request from Park and Rec, and I believe that this was picked up by tourism, not having attended the meeting, was essentially to mitigate that, those fees and encourage those groups that are bringing families, that are bringing all sorts of other people who come along to see the games into the town, by essentially reducing or zeroing out the regular nonprofit or for-profit fee structure that the Park and Rec Department recently placed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lampy.
Mayor Stocks. Just as an explanation on the fees, 70% of our tourism dollars that are collected, that 8%, actually does leave the city's coffers and goes to a separate entity that's run by the Chamber of Commerce, Tourism. And so it would have left ours and then gone to tourism, and then this would be a return for that.
So by your clarification, it's making one stop along the way, but it's still the same journey. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
But I
Mr.
do want to clarify on that thing, because the taxes are essentially collected from out-of-town visitors primarily through use of hotels. So this is net new revenue. I believe that we were way down at like 5%, which was well below the market on the tourism fee for the area. So thankfully, we were able to raise that tax up to the current level of 8%. It affects out-of-town people, and as the finance director mentioned, that essentially gets deposited in an account. So the fee reimbursement coming back to Park and Rec is essentially net new funds into Fund 1 that we otherwise would not have had any access into.
Okay. Why don't we, if anybody wants more discussion on the future, let me know. We can put on the agenda for a future item, okay? Does anybody have any question on any of the other reports? Mr. Berg?
Mayor Stocks, clarify for me, or maybe our chairman, Arnett, under Public Works Commission for the meeting on the 24th, the seventh item there was on this Applied Technologies going into another abbreviated type of contract to provide some services for the city. It talks about that being approved. Has that been acted on already?
You look at item 7, you said?
Yeah.
Review and take possible action for Applied Technologies.
35,000 to go into and provide an update on services with that Applied Technologies to help the wastewater facilities with their plan for repairs, improvements to the facilities they have. But that was, it shows obviously a unanimous vote. Has that been acted on beyond the Finance Committee?
That already came before council.
Right, right. So it's a done deal right now.
Council already approved
Right,
it at its
right.
previous meeting.
Right.
Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Actually, I apologize. We didn't need a vote. We didn't need a vote for that. Sorry. Let's move on from the minutes on. Okay. Sorry, unless there's more. Any of the other ones. Okay. Let's move to 8 then. We did ARA, so B, Watertown Fire Department May report.
Mayor?
Mr. Lampy.
If I could, I'd like to address my remarks to the chief, if she's available online.
She was online. You there, Tom?
Hi there.
Okay.
Yep.
So I noticed in the May report that, again, we seem to have set another record in simultaneous calls at 34%. Is that a trend that is looking like it's continuing to the summer?
I don't have the numbers in front of me. We have the report for June that just got drafted today. I haven't looked at. June was still pretty busy. July seems to have slowed down a bit, but it has been a consistent trend upwards in the past, obviously. So it feels like it, but July might have slowed down just a touch.
Second question was on the distribution of incident percentages. This is on page 35 of the packet, and I think it's the second page of the fire piece. We talked about the 25% of other incidents. What's involved in that?
Other incidents is things such as like assist invalids or lift assists, check welfare, duck rescues, other animal welfare checks, those types of things.
So yeah, there's a breakdown further in there. Thank you on that.
Yep.
The last one, and this probably echoes comments made by a few other council members in previous ones, has to do with the response time survey that we have at the bottom of the same page. We're mentioning here results at the 90th percentile and some national turnout numbers, but I thought the interest of the council on this one was essentially looking at response times before and after the move to the new station. Is that
Correct.
still coming forward soon?
Yep, that is still coming forward. I started drafting that, and it might be in the June monthly update report. The May report won't have that because we had just moved in. So I wanted to have some data from our move to be able to give you something. So at least a 6-week picture, and then we'll continue to track that and show a trend in the upcoming reports, because the Opticom also is just getting installed. It's not live yet, but we're making strong progress on that. So I want to be able to take a snapshot of like 6 weeks before the move, the 6 to 8 weeks of us there without Opticom, and then do a picture of here's how we are now that we're settled and the traffic control has been taken care of.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have questions for the chief? Okay, Tanya, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, next we have the 2024 audit report by Baker Tilly.
Thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Stocks. Let's see, we got that good to go. Thank you, Mark. So my name is Andrea Jansen. I'm a principal with Baker Tilly in charge of the city's financial audit. Before we dig into the numbers, just a couple high-level comments on the formal audit reports themselves. You don't have to pull those up. But just as a reminder, so the financial statements, our independent auditor's report is in the front half, or very front of this report. We were able to issue an unmodified opinion again this year, which is otherwise known as a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we're able to give, so that is good news. For the reporting and insights, which is the other formal report that goes along with the audit, just a couple reminders on this report. It is made up of a lot of required communications. I'm happy to dig into any of the specific sections or answer questions about it. But it includes our comments on internal controls for the city, and a reminder that our material weakness over financial reporting really comes for two reasons. One, because we prepare your financial statements on your behalf, and two, because we have found material audit adjustments during our procedures. That is not something that you're required to remedy, but that is something that we're required to report to you. I would say this is very, very common for municipalities of your size, of your staff size. You would likely have to add additional staff in order to be able to overcome that. Other key items in here are key audit contacts. Our contact information is here. You're welcome to reach out to us at any time during the year. And then there's a link to our website for informational points outside of the audit work that we do, services that Baker Tilly can help provide. So if those are of interest to you, certainly reach out to me and we can connect you with the right people there. So moving on to the numbers, I like to start with the general fund results because that's the primary operating fund of the city. And when we talk about your fund balance, just a reminder that that's your equity, that's what's left over when you take your assets minus your liabilities in simplified terms. So we've got charted out here 2024 compared to 2023, and your total fund balance in the general fund increased to about 8.6 million in 2024. And we've got a couple different categories of fund balance. So starting at the bottom, you've got about 167,000 tied up in advances to other funds and prepaid items, delinquent personal property tax. So those items, you can't use those funds to pay your bills. They're tied up in other manners. So that is why it's classified as non-spendable. You've got a small amount of restricted fund balance for grant and loan programs similar to prior year. Nothing in the committed category, and then assigned fund balance of about 1.7 million. That's for your payment in lieu of taxes and 2025 budget items. So those items are earmarked. You could change the assignment and reassign it if you so choose. And that leaves you with unassigned fund balance of about 6.7 million, and we'll look at that more on the next page. Just a couple comments below the chart. We've got your summarized income statement. And really, I like to start here in the middle column with your final budget or your plan for the year. You had planned for a net loss of about 747,000, and your actual results were a net income of 696,000, roughly in the general fund. So better than planned, which is good news. If you want to look at the details of your budget to actual schedule for the general fund, you'd find that on financial statement page 54. Some of the highlights: investment income was up over your plan on the revenue side, and then there was cost savings in multiple categories on the expenditure side, with the largest being general government and public works.
I'm sorry, what was the page reference there?
54.
Is this different? I only have a document that has like 6 pages.
This would be in the formal financial statement report. If you were looking at the financial statements, do they have those?
It'll be posted on our website. The full audit is what she's referencing.
And that's what I'm used to receiving. So if I could have that sent to me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. I think we'd all like that.
And then so continuing on to the next page of our summarized handout here, looking at that unassigned piece of fund balance. So here we're comparing that unassigned $6.7 million in the general fund to your annual budgeted expenditures to compare to your policy. So that ratio at the end of 2024 is 33.1%. And as you can see kind of by the chart, we're slightly above your policy range, target goal of 25%, with a top end range of 30%, in line with where you've been over the last 5 years. And we've also mapped out some comparative metrics for municipal client data in Wisconsin for similar sized populations. So you're right in line there, really stable over time. You could consider assigning more fund balance to kind of long-term reserves or projects or purposes, and that would help bring that unassigned fund balance down within your range if that was something that you wanted to do. Moving to page 3, we are switching gears and talking about general obligation debt. And what we've got mapped out on this chart is your general obligation debt outstanding on the bottom line on the red versus your state statutory debt limit. So as a reminder, that's 5% of your equalized value. So good to see that top line trending upward means your equalized value is going up. And we can see that, you know, over the last 5 years, we've got a growing margin between your debt outstanding, general obligation debt outstanding and the debt limit. A few reminders or caveats here kind of below the chart. In addition to your general obligation debt of $28.2 million, you've got revenue debt of about $8.5 million in the utility funds, and then note anticipation notes, the $14.6 million. So utility debt will be repaid with utility revenues. The note anticipation note will be refunded with your general obligation debt in 2025, where it will become general obligation debt and then factor into this chart next year. So when we look at this chart next year, I anticipate that bottom line will go up. Then on page 4, we are looking at what you're spending on debt service, so the principal and interest, and then we compare that to your non-capital expenditures. And this is focused on your governmental funds, so it excludes the utilities. That ratio is 22.5% at the end of 2024. Again, here we're seeing, you know, a really pretty stable trend over the last 5 years, and you're in line with other comparable municipalities of your size, so no concerns here. On page 5,
Question about that?
Yeah.
Thank you. What do you discern behind the trend for the reference value that's dropped significantly in the last 4 years?
I would have to look at the underlying data set to be able to answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more for a reference, and I can find that information and see if I can make some sense of it.
Thank you.
And follow up. On page 5, then moving into information on your utility funds, we're going to start here with the water utility. Current rates, as you know, I know you're in process with a rate case with the PSC, so current rates in effect through 2024 have been effective since 2017. You've got $2.4 million in operating income in this fund for 2024. We like to look at the unrestricted cash reserves, which were roughly $6 million at the end of the year, and then we look at the months on hand. So if you were to stop collecting revenues, which I'm not suggesting that you would do, how long would you be able to operate your water utility, which would be, you know, just over a period of 1 year. So that to me is a healthy reserve. We look at your debt coverage ratio, which is related to your revenue debt. And then we also look at your investment in capital. So because the utilities are heavily invested in infrastructure assets, you know, what portion of those infrastructure assets are equity funded versus debt. 21% debt funded, and this would be a typical ratio for a utility of your size, so no concerns there. We've got similar information presented for the sewer utility on page 6. These rates were last approved in 2017. You've got a $1.1 million operating income for 2024. And as you can see, that trend line, your margin there, has been kind of steadily shrinking over the last 5 years. But as we look into your unrestricted cash reserves, about $8.7 million at the end of the year, well over a year of months on hand, a very healthy ratio. And that doesn't include the $4.7 million that you have set aside in replacement funds for this fund. No debt outstanding here, so I think, you know, the message really is just to be mindful of the condition of assets And if you've got significant projects on the horizon, you know, making sure that you've got a plan for those. And then lastly, taking a look at the stormwater utility, these rates have been in effect since 2020. Similar to prior year, operating really close to a break-even point, so just a small $18,000 operating income in this fund for 2024. You've got healthy cash reserves, about $3.2 million, and over a year of operations, and again, no debt. So similar to the sewer utility, these reserves look healthy, and so as long as you've got a plan for maintenance and replacement, you know, as long as that's planned strategically versus being deferred, this fund appears to be in good shape as well. And happy to answer any other questions, but before I do, I just want to make sure to thank Mark and team, you know, for their assistance with the audit process. I know it's a lot of time and effort that goes into the preparation and answering our questions and getting us to the point where we're able to pull together financial statements and present to you here, so appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Anybody have any more questions?
No, if you can just follow up on Alderperson Arnett's request for the full document.
I
that we
think
each
it
get
sounds
that.
like that'll be put on and we can email it out, okay?
And then the answer to the question that he had for you, if you can just share that with us.
Okay.
On the comparative metrics?
If it's easy, if you want to send it to Mark
send
and
it
then
to
he
Mark.
can forward it out.
I
Okay.
can do that.
Mr. Lampy?
Two things I did want to mention. The reference on chart 42 where we talk about the fund balance as a percentage of the expenditures. I know that was on the minds of finance last year, where we essentially targeted that 25% target and used that to essentially have a 0% Fund 1 tax increase last year. So we were able to use, or attempt to use fund balance to basically drive that down. So I'm interested to see where that number is as we move into the financial part of the year starting in October. The clarification I think I want to make on page 43, I want to try to simplify some language here. So where we have, at the bottom of page 43, we talk about the NAN. I mean, that's essentially the fire station as it exists on our balance sheet at the moment in time where we took the audit, right?
Yes, in the governmental activities, yes.
So with that piece added into our general obligations, we're looking at about 42 million out of 120, or about 35% of our total debt capacity, which I think is another valuable thing to look at as we're starting to move into the financial season, knowing that we have plenty, huge amounts of ability to do the things that we need to do from a debt perspective as a city. I mean, where we were 10 years ago, there's been a diligent operation by folks who were on the council certainly before me, and since then to drive that line down in terms of making sure that we are reducing the total amount of debt that we have and being very smart with the other things. But it's that top line that when we're compared against that creates an enormous opportunity to essentially invest in things like the projects that we're going to see on the CIP coming forward.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, next we'll move on to miscellaneous business. Payroll summary, June 11th through June 24th. Paid invoices report, June 2025. Cash investments, June 30th. Any questions? We'll move on. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to licenses. A. Yeah. Okay. Move on to Mr. Blanky. Did you later? Okay. Good. Okay. B, review and take action application for a Class B malt and liquor license from the Score Sports Bar LLC DBA, the Riff Dive Bar, Jamie Ellis agent, located at 215 South 3rd Street for licensing year July 1st through June 30th, 2026. Sorry, July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. I'll plan on just reading all of them, then we can.
We can approve them separately, or motion to approve.
We can do it separate, that's fine. We can do that, okay. Got a motion by Bartz? Okay. Second by Berg? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Myron. Okay. C, review and take action application for a temporary Class B beer and wine license for the Marine Corps League annual picnic event on August 23rd, 2025, sponsored by Byram Schwefel Detachment, number 349, during the hours of 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. for location 907 Boomer Street.
I would make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion by Mollenhauer,
Second.
second by Blanky. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? D, review and take action. Application for a temporary Class B beer and wine license for the Watertown Catholic Parish Picnic event on August 17th, 2025, sponsored by St. Henry's Congregation during the hours of 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. for location 412 North 4th Street. Motion by
To approve.
Motion by Bartz, second by Berg. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. E, review and take action applications for temporary Class B licenses for the 9th Annual Wine Walk event hosted by Watertown Chamber of Commerce on September 25th, 2025, during the hours of 4:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. Locations include Ava's Posh Boutique, 209 East Main Street, Braille Jewelers, 217 East Main Street, Brown Shoe Fit Company, 212 East Main Street, Central Block, 300 East Main Street, Draggers Floral, 616 East Main Street, Oswald Cons Financial, 118 West Main Street, Sassy Suites, 116 West Main Street, and White Oak Builders, 14 East Main Street.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Lampy, second by Bartz. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. F, review and take action application for operator's license from Don A. Patzer. Mr. Lampy.
Move to deny that operator's license based on denial of, denial based on Category 5.
Okay, yeah, motion for denial.
Second.
I would second that.
Second by Moldenhauer. Okay. Okay. Motion is to deny. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to ordinances. A, ordinance 25-13, amend chapter 545 subdivision of land through the amendments of language to sections 545-14A, 545-42C, 545-42C, 545-50, and 545-15. Sponsored by myself and the Planning Commission on its second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Blanky?
move for ordinance 25-13 on its second reading.
A motion by Blanky, second by Wetzel. Discussion. Okay, Megan?
Blanky.
Aye.
Smith. Arnett.
Aye.
Wetzel. Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Davis. Lampy. Berg. Bartz.
Aye.
Motion carried.
B, ordinance 25-14, amend chapter 550 zoning code through the amendment of language to section 550-150, sponsored by myself and the Planning Commission, also on its second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Blanky?
I'll move for ordinance 25-14 on its second reading.
Okay, got a motion by Blanky,
So move.
second by Mollenhauer. Discussion? Okay.
Blanky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Arnett.
Aye.
Wetzel. Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Davis. Lampy.
Aye.
Berg.
Aye.
Bartz. Motion carried.
Okay, C, ordinance 25-15, amend section 500-6 parking limitations. A, municipal parking lot limitations, sponsored by Elder Davis from the Public Safety and Welfare Committee. That's first reading. Ms.
I'll
Davis.
move for ordinance 25-15.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Okay. Second by Lampy. Okay. Mr. Berg?
Yeah, just asking for, again, a clarification to explain a little bit more the rationale for 10-hour parking for that entire area.
Well, this particular motion, though, is to take away some 4 parking stalls that were in that area. So it's not addressing a 10-hour limit.
The one after, I'm sorry.
Okay. This is remove four stalls, correct? Yeah.
Parking stalls that were used by the engineering department.
Yeah. Okay. Further discussion? All right, Megan?
Davis.
Aye.
Lampy. Berg.
Aye.
Bartz.
Aye.
Blanky. Smith. Arnett.
Aye.
Wetzel. Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. D, ordinance 25-16, create a portion of section 500-3B, stop intersections, sponsored by Elder Davis from the Public and Safety and Welfare Committee. On its first reading. Ms. Davis?
I'll move for ordinance 25-16.
Okay, a motion by Davis, second by Wetzel. Thank you. Any discussion on that one?
Davis.
Aye.
Lampy. Berg.
Aye.
Bartz. Blanky.
Aye.
Smith. Arnett.
Aye.
Wetzel. Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. E, ordinance 25-17, amend section 500-8F, heavy traffic prohibited by posted signs, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis and the Public Safety and Welfare Committee on its first reading.
I would so move, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion by Mollenauer,
Second.
second by Davis. Okay, discussion. Mr. Berg?
I'm looking at this, this is actually 25-17.
Correct.
I mean, I think we all know we have designated areas for truck traffic to go through our town, our city. And then, so what we have, by definition, everything that's not in a truck traffic type of designated street for them to use, they obviously would not be asked or be allowed to go into their other areas of town. But so when we have a complaints, so we're complaint driven. Based on these 3 streets that were identified as having issues, they then bring up the concern, and it leads to identifying them as just areas where they cannot go onto that street.
Yes, it's these are issues that were brought by residents, discussed at the Public Safety Committee, and then the decision was to post them no truck signs, just as an additional reminder to the drivers of those trucks.
Okay. All right, Megan.
Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Davis. Lampy. Berg.
Aye.
Bartz. Blanky.
Aye.
Smith. Arnett.
Aye.
Wetzel. Motion carried.
Thank you. F, ordinance 25-18, ordinance to amend section 38-4 bond deposit schedule of the City of Watertown General Ordinances, sponsored by myself and the Finance Committee on its first reading. Mr.
I would
Mr.
move
Lampy.
ordinance 25-18 on
Thank-
first reading.
Okay, got a motion by Lampy,
Second.
second by Davis. Thank you.
Lampy.
Aye.
Berg.
Aye.
Bartz. Blanky.
Aye.
Smith. Arnett. Wetzel. Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Davis. Motion carried.
Okay, next we got resolutions. A, Exhibit 9765, resolution to adopt Jefferson County Hazard Mitigation Plan, sponsored by Elder Davis and the Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Ms. Davis?
Exhibit 9765.
Okay, I got a motion by Davis. I'll look at this side more. Go ahead, Elder. Mr. Smith, second by Smith, thank you. Discussion on that? Okay, do a roll call on it.
Davis. Lampy.
Aye.
Berg,
Aye.
Bartz,
Aye.
Blanky,
Aye.
Smith, Arnett,
Aye.
Wetzel, Moldenhauer.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. B, Exhibit 9766, resolution to recommend 2025 solid waste fee schedule and 2026 other fees schedule, sponsored by myself and the Finance Committee.
I'll move for adoption.
A motion by Berg. Second by Bartz. Thank you. Any discussion on that one? Mr. Lampy?
I just want to reiterate that this is extremely popular from what I've seen out there, so this is a good one to get some press around.
I did see someone put that on Facebook, yes. Okay. All right.
Berg,
Aye.
Bartz, Blanky,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Arnett,
Aye.
Wetzel, Moldenhauer,
Aye.
Davis, Lampy. Motion carried.
Okay, C, Exhibit 9767, resolution to enter into agreement with Strand Associates Incorporated for Alaman Lift Station and Force Main Modifications, Task Order 25-02, sponsored by Alderman Annette, the Public Works Commission.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Arnett.
move to adopt.
Okay, got a motion by Arnett,
I'll second.
second by Mollenhauer. Okay, any discussion on that one?
Yep.
Mr. Berg?
Yep. Again, looking at this dollar amount to go into this agreement, $360,000. Now, I might be missing, but was this a competitive type of a quote that we got from them, or a bid that we can actually look at that to compare? I looked at some of the details of the work they're going to provide, the services they're going to do for us, but that dollar amount, just for the engineering and the overall services of that, just seem to warrant a competitive bid to reassure us of that amount. Did anybody else come forward to compare with?
Any- Okay. Well, anybody from Public Works want to speak on that one?
We used to show the other vendors or the other companies that were in the comparison, so we could see how they compared, and this leads me to think this was a sole type of quote or bid. And I know we actively work with this company, Strand Associates, so I'm not critical of them per se, but I'm just bothered by that dollar amount and why we can't get something to compare it with.
So I'm just finding the original.
Is that page 385 in the packet?
Yeah, I got the resolution, I'm looking at it. I just don't see anybody beyond that. Is the chairman saying that there's one quote, one bid?
Finding it from our,
I think he's looking at the actual meeting.
want to tell you the wrong thing?
I mean, we already have an existing lift there. They're upgrading, replacing, improving, doing it. I see the work they want to do. Some type of services that we provide, and we need help from contractors. It's not easy to get quotes or competitive bidding, but as a city, we always encourage and try to have, where we can, a competitive bid to reassure us of the dollar amount requested being valid and legit.
In this particular case, I do not see considerable additional documentation available within the June 24th Public Works packet for more detail of all of the work. There's about
So we've got a
30-odd
relationship.
pages on here, so.
Yeah, so the chairman, we have a relationship with Strand Associates for the last year and a half, it looks like, but that's a short duration of time to work. I'm sure right now they must be viewed favorably, but they're not like some of the other engineering firms and ones that we've had forever that we have a history with them. They've got a short amount of time as far as working with our city.
So a few things that I'll present from the meeting background here, which may not have been in your document here. So on October 16th, 2024, Strand was there to review the findings of the preliminary engineering report, and they were authorized to submit the intent to apply application for a clean water fund loan. So they were already in this project from previous steps. I think it's important to note, this isn't they're just coming into the project here at the end. They've been in this project from very early on, including shepherding the Clean Water Fund loan application.
Thank you, Mr. Arnett.
But you are
Okay.
correct, in this particular instance, there were not alternate bids received. Again, because in this particular case, the work actually predates this. This is a follow-on step of a series of steps that started earlier.
Yeah, we've done it before where we've had lift station type of upgrades. That's a fairly standard type of work that we have done periodically within our city for our lift stations that are needing maintenance. So doing it is not unusual, but the amount that's for their engineering services and overall, it isn't just engineering, it's a lot of things they're doing. But the actual work is going to be a separate cost, and we're going to deal with that at a different time. This is for their involvement, and I wish we had something to compare it with.
Okay. All right, any more discussion on item C? Okay. Thank you.
Arnett,
Aye?
Wetzel,
Aye.
Moldenhauer,
Aye.
Davis, Lampy, Berg,
No.
Bartz, Blanky,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Move on to item D, Exhibit 9768, approve change order number 1 to 2025 water main relay contract number 8-25 with Forest Landscaping and Construction for $89,070, sponsored by Alderman Arnett and the Public Works Commission.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move for adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Arnett. Motion by Arnett. Second by Bartz. Okay, any discussion on that one?
Arnett,
Aye?
Wetzel,
Aye.
Moldenhauer,
Aye.
Davis, Lampy, Berg,
Aye.
Bartz,
Aye.
Blanky, Smith. Motion carried.
Okay, next we have comments and suggestions from citizens present. Will you please state your name and address? You have up to 3 minutes. The timer goes off. Just please finish off your thoughts.
Reverend Dr. Christopher Ross.
Good evening once again. My name is Chris Ross. I live at 432 West Clover Lane, Road, and am not standing to read scripture verses. I work and serve here in Watertown, as you know, as pastor of First Congregational United Church of Christ at Watertown. I rise at this point to invite all of you to this year's Watertown Pride event, scheduled for this coming Saturday, July 19th, from 10 to 6 over at First Congregation. You are welcome to join us to support in joy and freedom the members of your community who you
all have been elected to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Yeah. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay. I will then entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Wetzel. Second by Lampy. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Opposed? All right. Have a good night.